Welcome to another session of our Tuesday night class on Halakha and Hashkafa for Women. We would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Badash for opening their home. Mr. Badash is a very close friend of mine who's a Marbitz Torah, and he should always have the Yachaylis and the Yacholet and the ability to be Marbitz Torah and to help out his family and the community. Amen. This week we're going to be talking about Memachik and Gozez, which is the Todah Memachik, which is smearing, and Gozez, which is taking out hair. Involved in that is going to be combing hair, brushing hair, whether it's a wig, whether it's regular hair, taking off band-aids that have that has hair under it, and so on. Before that, I wanted to talk about an interesting. Three interesting questions that I had for a very long time, and I believe I found a beautiful answer for it, and I wanted to share it with you. In the parasha it says, "Ma Hashem sho'el mi'imach ki im li'ira et Hashem Elokecha." What does God ask of you? Just to fear Him. That's all God asks of you. Now it seems like a very big thing, right? Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, what does God want from you? Just fear Him, do His mitzvot, go in His ways. And it's a very difficult thing to do. So why does He make it like it's so small? So this isn't my question. The Gemara in Berachot asks the same question. Gemara Berachot says, "Umizu trahi." Is it so small to fear God? Is that a small endeavor, a small feat? No, it's huge. So how is it possible Moshe Rabbeinu could say it? And the Gemara Berachot says, it is small. For who? For Moshe Rabbeinu. For Moshe Rabbeinu, it's considered small. That's why he was able to say it. So that's a very nice answer, but it didn't sit well with me. Why? Because it's very good it was easy for him. But what's a good speaker? Knowing his audience. He should have known that everyone in Kal Yisrael would know that it's a very difficult thing. How can you say it's so easy when it's a very hard thing to do? To fear God. That means that everything you do in your life, you have to think before, is this going to make Hashem happy? Is this not going to make Hashem happy? Am I going to sin in this case? Or am I not going to sin? And it's a very hard thing to do. Hence, we all come back again and we try to rectify everything that we've done in past lives, and past days, and past weeks. And that's why we're still here, to rectify our sins. So how can Moshe Rabbeinu say this? The next question is the story of Yonah. We all know on Yom Kippur, we read about the story of Yonah. What happened by Yonah? Yonah was a prophet that God said, go to Nineveh, and go tell them to repent. Go tell them to do teshuvah. Now, Nineveh was a city that was full of non-Jews. It was a non-Jewish city, and God sent a prophet from the Jews to make the non-Jews repent, to do teshuvah, which is very interesting that happened. There's one other time it also happened by Obadiah, where he told them, go back to your own city and go make them do teshuvah. He was a ger, he was a convert. And what happened? He didn't want to do it. So Yonah said, I'm not going to do it. And he knew that if he leaves Eretz Yisrael, God cannot give him prophecy. A prophet can only get nivuah in Eretz Yisrael. So what did he do? He left. He tried to go to Tarshish. He gets on a boat. We all know the story. The boat starts swaying in the water. It's the only one. There's hundreds of boats in the water. This is the only one that's rocking back and forth. And they realize something's going on. So they said, there's a reason why this is happening, and we have to figure this out. So they go and they find him sleeping in the cabin. And they said, what are you sleeping when everything's going over? And the reason why he was sleeping is because he knew that the reason why the boat was swaying was because Hashem wanted him out of it. They made a raffle. The rabbis say they actually made dozens of raffles. They did it over and over and over. It always fell out on his name. He was the reason why. What they do, they took him, they threw him over. Now he's in the water, he goes into the fish. Until he finally leaves the fish, he goes to Nineveh. And he tells Nineveh, do teshuvah. Now what's the reason why he didn't just do what Hashem wanted right away? When God tells you to do something, you do it right away. Why did he wait? Why did he try to run away? So they explain very, very nicely. The rabbis explain, Chazal say the reason why he waited, the reason why he tried to run away was because he knew that Nineveh was very close to repenting. Very close to doing teshuvah. And the Bnei Yisrael were not doing good in those days. So he said, if I'm going to go and make them do teshuvah and the Bnei Yisrael are going to look bad, that's not going to be nice. I don't want that to happen. I'd rather run away. I'd rather have myself be killed, being thrown into the water. Now, it's a very nice answer, but the question again is if God in all of his glory comes to you and says, do X, Y, and Z for me, you're going to do it. You're not going to be like, well, how are the Bnei Yisrael going to look? How am I going to look? What's going on? You're not going to do that. You're going to go and do it right away. If the biggest rabbi in the world tells you, there's a rabbi in Eretz Yisrael, his name is Rav Chaim Kanievsky. People, before they go into him, they make sure to grow a beard. Because whoever walks into him, he says, are you religious? Yes, I'm religious. Grow a beard. And how are you going to say no to him? You can't say no. The Gadol Hador tell you to grow a beard? See, my father-in-law didn't know. And my father-in-law went into him without growing his beard. And my mother-in-law hates beards. And he goes in and he says, grow a beard. And my father-in-law says, it's not going to be good for my shalom bayit. So he says, tell her to shave. You grow a beard. And till now, I think it's 5-6 years already, he has a beard. Because when the rabbi tells you to grow a beard, you grow a beard. So if God's telling you or not, go to Nineveh and make them do teshuvah, you listen. What's the reason why he stopped short? What's the reason why he was willing to be killed for it? The third question is in the parasha. Parashat Shelach, it says that the Egyptians, after they chase the Jews, they go past Kiryat Yamsuf. They're in the desert. No food, no water. They weren't happy with what they were getting from God. And they were insolent people. And they said, you brought us out to the desert to kill us? We should have died in Mitzrayim. Bring us back to Egypt. At that moment, God was very not happy with the Jews. And God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I am going to make a new nation, and it's going to start from you. You will be my new nation. And Moshe Rabbeinu says the most interesting statement in history. Moshe Rabbeinu tells God, but what are the Egyptians going to say? What are the Mitzrayim going to say? You brought them out here to kill them? Now, if you read that, it makes no sense. You're talking about God. Does he care what Egyptians say? If somebody, you're walking in the street, you're in New York City, and this hobo comes over to you and says you're a bum, do you acknowledge it? You don't acknowledge it, because look at you, you're nothing. You can't tell me that. But all of a sudden, Moshe Rabbeinu says, what are the Egyptians going to say? And even more, the question gets stronger. God listens. God says, you're right. Okay. I'm going to save them because of your comment, because of your statement of what are the Egyptians going to say. And it makes no sense. God can create everything. He can just destroy the world and start it again. Mechadesh b'chol yom tamid. He creates the world anew every single moment. It's a created anew. Take them all out of the picture. Take the Egyptians out, take the Jews out. But he didn't do that.
Is there an opinion that Pharaoh did teshuvah and he went to Nineveh?
Yes. They bring down in Navi Yonah that the king of Nineveh, who did teshuvah so quickly, was Paro. And the reason why he did teshuvah so quickly is because he saw what happened to him then. He saw what the Jews were all about. So that's the third question. Now I'm going to answer it, or try to answer it with a story. There was a menahel in Lakewood, New Jersey. His name is Rabbi Rabinowitz. Rabbi Rabinowitz goes into the doctor one day, and the doctor tells him, you have to go to the emergency room right away. There is something wrong with you. He goes to the emergency room. He has all these specialists checking him out. And the doctor comes over to him and says, Rabbi, I don't know how to tell you this, but you have stage 4 cancer. You're not going to live. A couple of weeks max. And the rabbi looks at the doctor and he says, thank you so much for all your help. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for carrying me. And God needs to do what he needs to do. And the doctor was stunned. He said, I don't understand. I tell people this all the time. I am a doctor for cancer. When I tell it to people, either they deny God, they scream, they wail, they cry, they say this can't be happening. By you were calm. How can that be? So he says, I'm going to tell you a story. He said, there was once a hobo in New York City. What was his job? He collects money from people. He sits there with his little pan and he says, I need some money. He has a little paper on his shirt. Please, I need some food. One day, a very distinguished looking fellow walks over to him. He pulls out a crisp $100 bill. He gives it to him. $100. He was so happy. He said, I make this in a week. I made it in 1 minute. He says, I'm going to splurge. What does he do? He takes the $100. He goes straight to the fanciest restaurant in New York City. He goes into the restaurant. He sits down by the table. The waiter's looking at him like, you came off the street, literally. What are you doing over here? He says, no, I have the money. He shows him the money. He says, okay, what do you want to order? He says, I want the most expensive steak. $85 steak. He puts it on the plate right in front of him. The man takes one bite and he says, this is terrible. It doesn't taste right. The waiter says, what do you mean this doesn't taste right? This is the best steak you'll ever have in your life. He said, it doesn't taste right. The waiter goes, he takes a piece, he tastes it. He says, this is exactly how steak is supposed to taste. It tastes amazing. He said, this can't be happening. I want my money back. You're not going to get money back. He says, call the manager. The manager comes over. He said, sir, how can I help you? He said, I bought the steak. The steak isn't good. I know what steak's supposed to taste like. He says, can I taste it? Sure. He tastes it. No good. And this is what the man's telling the doctor. Rabbi Rabinowitz. He says, I want to speak to the owner. And they say, you can't talk to the owner. This isn't some place where you just walk into the owner's office and you say the steak doesn't taste good. He said, get out. We're not giving you your money. He saw he wasn't getting anywhere, the bum. So he said, let me just use the restroom. He walks towards the restroom. Instead of making the left to the restroom, he makes a right straight into the office of the owner of the restaurant. He opens the door ready to scream, and he sees that the owner was the person who gave him the $100.
Wow.
He says, thank you for all your help. And he closes the door. And Rabbi Rabinowitz says, God gave me my life. He gave me everything. He gave me my kids, my family. He gave me all these years to breathe, to live, to do for him, to serve. And he wants my life back? Take it. It's yours. I can be angry at you when you're the one who gave me the $100. I can't be angry at you. The Chafetz Chaim had a child that died. And when he got up to eulogize his child, he said that there was a Sephardi woman in Spain during the Inquisition that had 2 children, 2 sons. And when they came to take the children and convert them, she said, I won't give them up. I won't give them up, they won't do it. And the guard said, if you don't give them up, we will kill them. She said, do what you must. I will not give up my children to go to a different faith. They take the kids, they kill them. Now she has nothing. No husband, no kids. She was all alone. And she looks up to heaven and she said, all my life, I took my love and I gave it to you, God, and to my 2 children. You only had 1/3. Now that you took both my kids, you have 100%. Now it's all yours. And the Chafetz Chaim said the same thing with me. I used to split my love between my children and you. Now you get that love. And I believe this answers the questions. Moshe asks the Jews, he says, what does God ask of you just to fear him and do his commandments? He was saying it's not so hard. I've done it. I can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And we ask, what does that mean? What do you mean you can do it? You're Moshe Rabbeinu. We're just regular people. We can't just fear God. You can't make it like it's so easy. He's saying, no, I beat my inclination, my evil inclination. You know how? Because I changed my mindset. This is what I believe Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. That God gave you everything. He gave you your life, he gave you your children, your home, your community, your clothes, your food. Everything that you have is from him. He's asking me one thing, just fear him. I'm going to say no. What is God asking? Just fear him. He gave you everything and he wants fear. And that's what you're going to say no about? Of course it's easy. Yeah, it's easy for you and it's easy for him. It's easy for all of us. Because we never looked at it with that mindset, with that understanding that God gave us everything and now he just wants a little bit back. He just wants you to fear him. He just wants you to keep his mitzvot. How can you say no? And with this we could understand Yonah. The reason why Yonah didn't want to go to Nineveh was because if they would have done teshuvah, the goyim, the non-Jews, and the Jews wouldn't do teshuvah, then it would hurt God. And he said, I can't hurt you. I love you too much to hurt you. I'd rather run away and kill myself as opposed to making a chilul Hashem by you, to making you look bad, because then people are going to say, oh, the Jews don't do teshuvah, they don't repent, but the goyim repent. It's going to make you look bad, and I can't have that. That's going to hurt me too much, and I'm willing to die for that. Now it makes more sense why Yonah would run away, because he doesn't want to hurt God. He doesn't want God to look bad because he loves him too much, like a father. When someone starts with your father, you have to defend him. And now we can understand the last question and now the last answer. The reason why Hashem said, I'm going to make a new nation out of you. And what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? What are the Egyptians going to say? He was saying, I don't want anyone to speak bad about you. I don't care who it is. You're my father. I love you so much. If someone's going to talk bad about you, I don't want to have any part in it. You can't kill them because it's going to make you look bad. And now we understand, why did God say, okay, fine, I'm going to let it go? What kind of answer is that? The answer is, if someone loves me so much like you, I'm willing to keep the whole nation for that. If I have someone who's so in love with me that he's not willing to have a bad word said about me, I'll keep the nation. You just saved the nation. And that's why when he said, okay, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to take them. We won't make a new nation. Why? Because I see that there's still love. My grandfather, Chacham Tzion Masaton, he writes in his book, Torah Metzion, he says, what is true Ahavat Hashem? What does it mean to love God with all your heart? He says, when you say Shema, you have to say, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol me'odecha. He said, you have to love God with all your heart. How do you love God? You don't see Him. You don't see God. Right? Sometimes you feel Him, sometimes you don't. You don't know if He's there. Right? If we felt Him all day, we wouldn't be doing half the things we're doing. So what does it mean to love? He says, if you want to really love God, start loving people. He says, love your family. Love your community. Start doing for people. Start helping people. And that will bring about love. And then that will turn into love for God. Because without that, we'll never make it there. And our issue is, as Rabbi Miller always says, that we don't really love God. How many times do we say every day, God, I love you? He says every day, one of his 10 commandments, Rabbi Miller's 10 commandments, thank you, Hashem, I love you. That's what you have to say every day. But we don't say it because sometimes it's weird to talk to God. We want to get God away from us. A lot of times I know a person, he's actually a quite wealthy person, and whenever he has a big deal, he always says, God, just stay out of this one. Just don't get involved in this one. Just let me do the thing. Everything's going well. Don't get him. But he missed the boat. And I told him once, I said, God, you make it like God's an obstacle that you're trying to jump over. No, He's the one that's carrying you. He's not the obstacle. He's the one that's carrying you through all these times. He wants you to get whatever's best for you. Okay, now let's start the halacha. We'll do this again at the end. We're not going to have time. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. The melacha of memachek. The todah memachek is memareach. To shmir is going to be a problem. Where does this come from? It comes from the animal hide. When they used to have the animals, they used to take off the hair, which inevitably made the skin very soft. So since in the Mishkan they used to make the skin very soft, and it was from shmearing, again, we're not getting involved in the lumdis and the technicalities of why that comes out, but we hold you're not allowed to smear anything. Whether it's cream, or whether it's Decidin, or maybe even toothpaste, which we'll talk about also as well. That specifically someone said we should have a class about it. That's what we're talking about now, about toothpaste. If you're allowed to brush your teeth on Shabbat or not. Okay, if you want to leave now, you could. The same thing would apply to deodorant. When you have the stick deodorant, you are not allowed to use that on Shabbat. It has to be spray. Whether it's gel or whether it's the white one, you can't use that Shabbat because that's considered smearing. That would be asur. Lipstick as well, like we spoke about last week. Lipstick, besides for coloring, it's another problem of smearing. You're not allowed to smear on Shabbat. You're not allowed to make a coat on anywhere, whether it's closing up a hole with food, right? Because we're going to talk about margarine or things like that, that wouldn't be a problem because that's considered food. So you're allowed to smear that on bread or peanut butter or things like that. But if you're using it to close up a hole, a barrel, the Gemara brings down, that's a problem. You're not allowed to smear things.
What if you eat a butter of bread with margarine?
Right. So food. I just said, smearing food would be a problem, even if you want to get it on the whole bread. A lot of people talk about the question of let's say you're smearing it on bread, so really you want to smear it all on the sides, but you don't need to. So maybe that would be a problem. We're not getting involved in these very technical issues. You can ask me after about these harder issues. We're going to talk about the main crux and the main points, and then we'll see what comes out with that. So deodorant sticks, lipsticks are problems of memoreach. Facial creams, Vaseline would be the same thing. It's thick and it's a problem of memoreach. Skin creams like Decidin or putting butter or margarine on chapped lips will all be an isur, and it's not allowed to be done. Right? To get out of that is very easy. You can actually just put oil, and it does the same job. Oil flows, so it's not a problem. It has to be something that doesn't flow, something that's thick. That's when memoreach would be an issue. Now, for Mrs. Miriam, we have a little way out regarding the Vaseline. According to Rabbi Ovadia, he says that memoreach is only a problem, smearing is only a problem if you want to keep a coat on, let's say, your body or on the place. But if you want it, and it does actually go into the body, it gets absorbed in the skin, he says that wouldn't be a problem, and you can do that at certain times. He says, when a kid is not feeling well, or you want to put it, let's say for example, the best way to clean a baby, if the baby has a rash, you're supposed to take the cream, you're supposed to put it on, you close the diaper, and then the baby walks by itself, and it moves it all around, and you're good. You're not supposed to smear it. But what if that's not an option? You can't do that. It's an infant, and it doesn't move around. So he brings down, in those cases, you can actually smear it in, if it's a certain lotion that will go into the skin itself, and it'll disappear into the skin, so you're not making any layer or coating, and that wouldn't be a problem. Right? I wouldn't say to do that firsthand. It's better to use everything else, but if you can't use anything else and your lips are going to be totally chapped and terrible, in those cases, then maybe that would be permitted. Yes?
Wouldn't that be the same as skin cream? Because skin cream you apply it topically and it absorbs into the skin too.
So if all of that, and it doesn't leave a glaze or nothing on top, it doesn't leave a...
Water-based.
Okay, so then technically that could be okay, but it should only be used in dire necessity, like a cholesh a sick person that's not in danger, but he's not feeling well and he needs to have it. If you have chapped hands or things like that, it should not be used, for sure not.
But for babies, it's okay, you said, or?
So for babies, the best thing to do is to put it in the pamper, or to put it on the baby, and then you put on the pamper, and then let the baby walk around.
Yeah.
But if that's not possible, then you have Rabbi Ovadia saying that you could even put it on the spot and smear it a little bit, as long as it goes into the skin itself. Yeah.
You can put oil on the face?
Oil's always okay.
Really?
Yeah, because oil's smooth. It's Rashi brings that down. That's from the Gemara. Oil's smooth. It flows. It's never a problem in memoreach. Memoreach is only a problem when it's something that's thick. I'll give you an example. There's a big question regarding liquid soap. A lot of people, especially in Lakewood, you go into any shul and they'll have soap and they'll put half water and half soap and they'll mix it, because if sometimes they feel like the soap is too thick, and then it's a problem in memoreach when you start going like this. So they'll go and they'll put water with it. For the most part, it does flow. I never saw very thick, like honey type of soap, but some people are stringent in that way, and they would put that water in. Yeah, but it's only something that's thick, like ketchup.
If the makeup is smudged, can we put some oil to remove some of the makeup?
You can take, yes. I don't know if we spoke about that last week. You could take off makeup that's on your face. That's no problem of erasing or anything like that whatsoever.
With oil. With like
Makeup remover. Like what you mean?
Yeah, no, that would be the same thing. Putting makeup, as long as you don't squeeze the cotton ball that you put it on, it wouldn't be a problem. The only issue would be regarding, let's say, the nail polish. To put the nail polish remover, that would be a problem, according to most, unless they bring that maybe if a woman has nail polish and she has to go to the mikveh and there's no goy to take it off, so they say you could take it off yourself. That's what the Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach holds, as well as other, the Ohel Sarah, some other Sifarim, they bring that down regarding the mikveh. But if not, then you can't take it off. But regarding taking off lipstick or things like that on your face, that wouldn't be an issue.
So when you take off makeup, you actually have to rub whatever it is that you're using, a tissue or...
Yeah, but you don't want to smear makeup all around your face. You want to take it off. So that smearing wouldn't be an issue. Now, things that are...
smudged, you're allowed to go like this and...
Yes, no problem. Things that are that are not a problem in memoreach would be baby oils, olive oils, lubricating jellies, liquid soap, And then we get involved in the main event, which is going to be brushing your teeth. So let's see what the rabbis hold regarding brushing your teeth on Shabbat. These are what the poskim say. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein writes that you're not allowed to brush your teeth on Shabbat. Why? Because firstly, if you're going to go and put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and then scrub it on your teeth, you're making a layer or a coating on the teeth. You're actually smearing the toothpaste onto your teeth, and he says that's going to be an issue. He says, and besides for that,
Some people.
he says there might also be a problem of sechitat se'ar. Now, sechita is for a different class, but it's called squeezing. We're not allowed to squeeze things on Shabbat, right? You can't squeeze. If you have a towel that's wet, you can't wring out the towel. It's what? Okay. It's considered an isur to squeeze out a towel from water or anything of the like. Another issue would be sechitat se'ar, even though it's a derabanan. Sechitat se'ar means squeezing the hair, right? Let's say someone needs to have a very cold shower because it's a terribly hot day. They go in the shower. They say you should pat your head as opposed to squeezing it because you're just squeezing out the hair. Now the issue is hair actually doesn't absorb water. If you put hair into water, it won't absorb anything. But since there's so many hair, around the hair has little water molecules, and when you squeeze that, it seems like it's squeezing and it's an issue. The same thing he brings out is with a toothbrush. That should also really be a problem. Since you have all these bristles, you're going to go and put water on it or scrub it together. It could be a problem with sechita. He says don't do it. His third issue is going to be hachana, preparation. He says make sure, or you shouldn't brush your teeth, because if you're going to wash your toothbrush after you brush it, you're washing it for the next day. You're washing it for Sunday, and it's considered preparation, which you can't do on Shabbat. Interesting? Okay, now, that's Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. The Or L'Tzion, Chacham ben Zion Abba Shaul comes and he says, are you allowed to brush your teeth on Shabbat? He says, do not. Why does the Or L'Tzion say you shouldn't do it? He says, you shouldn't do it for a few reasons. He says, first of all, memareach. The same issue, you're smearing, you're not allowed to smear. He says, but you can get out of the smearing issue. How can you get out of it? He says you get the half toothpaste, half mouthwash toothpaste. You know those that are very liquidy? Colgate has it, Crest have it. It's called half-half. He says since it's so wet, and it's not going to be a problem of smearing because it flows and it won't be an issue. He says regarding the problem of sechita, of squeezing, he says that's not a problem for a different reason. He says because it has a handle. And when it has a handle, you're not actually squeezing it, you're using the handle to squeeze it. It's a gemara, it's not for this discussion. He says, but you should not wash your toothbrush after, because if you wash your toothbrush after, you will be preparing. So he says don't do that. So that's what the Or L'Tzion brings down. Now, the Yalkut Yosef brings down,
But if you wash it for the Shabbat, like for example,
then it won't be a problem. Friday night for Shabbat day, according to that, would not be an issue. Right, exactly. Or you're taking a nap, you want to brush your teeth after. According to that, it won't be an issue. It's only the last time you're going to brush for the next day. Now the Yalkut Yosef says, he says there's actually many problems with it. He says there are 6 problems with it. What are the 6 problems? He says, first of all, there might be a problem of memareach, of smearing, as we said from the other 2. He said, second of all, maybe it's considered refuah, healing. Since people do it as an everyday thing because they need to have it in their mouth, maybe it's considered healing. You're healing your mouth, refuah. Third issue is, he says maybe it's sechita, squeezing. Fourth issue, he says maybe you're going to break one of the bristles, and you can't break on Shabbat. That's an issue. Fifth issue is when you're going to scrub the toothpaste in your mouth, you're making bubbles, and that's considered nolad, creating something new, and you can't create something new on Shabbat. And then he comes up with a 6th issue, and that is you might bleed, and you can't make yourself bleed on Shabbat. Now we're not going to go through this teshuvah because it's quite long, and we have much more to talk about. But he does come out that all those are not an issue. And he says you could actually even use regular toothpaste. I advise people that they should get the half-half. they should try to get the more liquidy toothpaste to at least be Yotze Chacham Ben Zion or Moshe Feinstein. And then it won't be an issue. And if it's possible not to wash it, to do the preparation and wash it for the next day, better not to do it. But the truth is that I'm not so.
Can you soak it in water, in a cup of water, and put it inside?
The what?
The toothbrush.
For what?
After you finish.
Yeah, so in general, I don't understand why it's actually considered preparation. Because, for example, you're allowed to, let's say you prayed mincha on Shabbat, and then you want to take your book and you want to put it back on your shelf. That's not a problem, preparation. You're not using it until the next day. So I don't really understand exactly why this is considered preparation, and that's what the other rabbis bring down, that really it's not preparation because it's just something normal that you do every day. So that's not considered preparing for the next day. But if you want to be Yotzeh, this Shita, Rabbi Zion, or Moshe Feinstein, don't wash it. And he says better even to get a new toothbrush. Because you're supposed to have a new toothbrush for Shabbat as opposed to a weekday because of Uvdin Dechol. It's considered a mundane act to, which we're going to talk about by brushing the hair as well. For Ashkenazim at least, they should have a separate brush for Shabbat and not for Shabbat. That's what the Mishnah B'Torah brings down as among the other Ashkenaz poskim. So the same thing they say with a toothbrush, better to get a different toothbrush. They do have a Jewish kosher toothbrush that's much more expensive because it says kosher on it. And the bristles are made out of rubber so they don't break and they're very far apart. I don't believe they do a good job. But if you want to do that,
How about
okay.
dairy and meat?
I'm sorry?
Dairy and meat.
Dairy meat toothbrushes. If you want a way to be able to do it, this is the way to do it, and you have many rabbis to rely on. It won't be a problem. Yeah.
Is there a difference with brushing your teeth on Shabbos versus Yom Tov?
Same thing.
Same restrictions?
Yeah. It would be the same thing.
And you can't smear?
Right.
either
You
one?
can't do that on Shabbat or Yom Tov.
So some people don't brush their teeth for like 3 days?
Yeah, they'll use Listerine. People who don't want to hold of these heterim, not that they're heterim, these are ways to do it halachically correct.
Does Listerine resolve the problem?
Right. And then you won't get involved in any of these issues. Okay, now. The next thing we're going to talk about, that was memachek, memareach. Besides for the diaper rashes and the brushing of the teeth and all these different items, some that you could use, some that you can't use, whether it's soap or whether it's lubricating jelly or things like that. Now we're going to get involved in gozes. And this is,
I just have a question before you move on.
of course.
So you can smear on challah, hummus, and...
Yes,
Is
regarding
it
food you
peanut
could.
Why
Yeah.
is that?
Because the gezerah, the decree was never on food.
Um,
It's like that by everything. We said last week, in Sivya Ba'ochlin, there's no such thing as coloring food either, or coloring drinks without the Ben Ish Chai, right? Because food is a whole different category, and we never get involved in that problem.
But I read that you're not supposed to, this is a slice of bread. If I don't want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm not supposed to be going and be obsessed with making sure.
Right, so that's what they talk about. So that's what I said in the beginning. I don't know if you were
Just
here.
dump it in there and
No, so if you're doing it because you want it to look like super nice, then maybe
no,
you should
because I
refrain.
wanna make sure that it's spread properly.
Then it's fine. Then there's no problem. That wouldn't be an issue. Okay, now, melechet gozes, shearing wool, or involved in that is pulling out here, or combing here, or brushing here. How is it possible to do it? Now, brushing hair on Shabbat is forbidden, unless you have a brush that has soft bristles. Soft bristles, I wrote, means the bristles can bend. Not that they're very strong and straight like a comb, because once it's a comb, everyone holds it's a problem. You use a comb, it's very strong, the plastic is hard. If you're going to brush your hair, the hair is going to fall out, and you're making an isur on Shabbat. According to some, it could even be a doraita in some cases. So we want to stay away from that. So combs are a problem. Regarding brushes, if it's soft bristles and you are gently brushing, you're not going very, very hard. If the person has crazy knots or she has very loose hair, a lot of people have very loose hair, you can't brush your hair. It just doesn't work. It won't work because you will definitely be pulling it out. It's considered a psik ratio, which is vadai going to happen, and it would be considered forbidden. Yes.
With my daughters, because we have very tight curls, I usually moisten the hair and then I try to comb or use the bristles of the brush to comb from the bottom up without pulling the hair out.
That'll work.
That works? Okay.
Yeah. And for Ashkenazim, as we said before, they actually need a separate brush as well. Because of Uvdin Dechol, they need a brush just for Shabbat that they can use. It doesn't have to be a special Shabbos brush. It could be a brush that they buy and they call it a Shabbos brush, and that would be fine. For Sfaradim, Rabbi Zion writes we do not need that, and there's no inyan to have it. For Sfaradim, you don't need to have a separate brush for it. Now, what if a person wants to put in their hair gel or hairspray?
Hairspray, yes, gel, no.
Okay. So
Neither.
I'm sorry?
Neither.
So the rabbis bring down that since gel or hairspray, it causes it to become, to get a certain mold, a certain form, it'll be a problem of boneh, of building.
But if your hair is slicked back already and you have it, you spritz it, it's already in position.
If it's already in position and you want to spray it, that'll be okay. They do bring that down. But if you're actually molding it and making it, forming it into a certain, whatever you're trying to do, or keeping it straight because it's all wild, that's an issue of boneh. Now, the Gemara asked the question that you're all thinking. The Gemara says, how can you tell me that braiding hair or gelling hair or things like that, because it says braiding is also an issue.
Really?
Yes, if you want to braid hair on Shabbat, it's an isur of boneh. If you want to curl hair with rollers, or someone else styling your hair, is a form of boneh, and it is also asur. You're not allowed to do any of those, because you're making a face.
No, the curling hair, the one.
Curling your hair, yeah, it's going to be asur.
So what if you do it
Some
before
people
Shabbat and you only open it like after?
Good question. If you do it before Shabbat, you can take it off after Shabbat. They bring down that question. They all say it's going to be permitted.
After Shabbat starts.
Yeah, after Shabbat.
So yeah, like Friday evening or I don't know.
But to do it on Shabbat and actually making your hair into a form, whether with curls or braiding it or someone else doing it for you, even if it's not really the braid, like a lot of times they have by the weddings where they have this very fancy type of thing and they put like a pin in it, that can also be an issue because you're making it into a certain form. Hold on, before the question, the Gemara in Shabbat asked the question. It says, what is the problem of doing it? Why can't you do it? What melacha is it? What happened in the Mishkan? So it says it's considered building.
It's not weaving.
Now you can ask, very good, that's by a wig. We'll talk about that in a second. How is it considered building? So the Gemara asks the question, the Gemara says, Godelet upokeset mishum boneh. You can't braid or fix hair because of boneh, because of building. The Gemara asks, V'chi derech bekach, binyan bekach. Is it the way to build like this? That's not building. He says, yes it is. Kededarish Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya. As Rabbi Shimon ben Menasya says, Vayiven Hashem Elohim et atzela. When God took the rib from Adam and created Eve, it says, Vayiven, he built et atzela. He built from this rib, this woman named Chava. And the Gemara says, Melamed shekeliyat HaKadosh Baruch Hu dechava ve'hivia etzel Adam. What does that mean he built? The Gemara says he braided her hair. He created Chava, he braided her hair, and then he presented her to Adam. This is your new wife. Look how beautiful she is. So since that's what God did to Chava, he braided it, and they call it Vayiven built, that's why it's going to be asur from the melacha of building. Yes?
So all the women that put like the, how do you say it, pachot on their head, like they wrap their head with, today it's like very fashionable.
That's going to be okay.
That's why.
Because you're just holding the hair in place, and you're not actually trying to make it something fancy. You just want to cover it. It's like when a woman has a wig and then she makes this little pony, which ponies would be okay also. It's not considered making be a problem because you're actually just gathering the hair together as opposed to making it into a certain form. Now, what would be the din by a wig now? So let's say you have a wig. Okay, bonnet is going to be a problem. Yes.
Sorry, can we just go back to you know how sometimes there's like a wet gel that's like a very like loose kind of watery gel?
But does it make your hair
It
a certain?
doesn't
Does it make your hair stick?
fold, it just kind of slicks like.
I don't know.
And also like, can people put oil in hair on Shabbat?
It's a good question. I would think you can. What's it for?
Sometimes
To hold it
like
down.
there's like oils that just
There's
kind of
oils
make it
that
less
make
frizzy.
frizzy.
Oh, no, but to hold it down is not considered forming it. We're talking about you're braiding it or you're making it into a certain form. Here, you're just putting it down. It's like taking the hair and making it into a bun. Now, how does it work by wigs? You have a woman who wears a wig. are you allowed to braid a wig? So the whole problem of braiding here is boneh. What about a wig? So they say braiding a wig is also a problem of oreg, which is what you said, right? Oreg, which is to weave. And that would be an issue. You're not allowed to weave on Shabbat, and it's considered weaving because you're taking something that's a kili, a vessel. It's not considered your hair anymore because it's detached, and you're making it into a certain form. It's considered weaving. Now, unbraiding here is going to be a problem also of potzea. If you want to unbraid it, it's going to be also a problem.
Unbraided.
So a wig is not bonnet because you take something totally.
Because it's not attached to you. Boneh is only, could be by a goof, by your body, or by really building. But if it's not attached to you, it wouldn't be a problem of boneh. But you'll have a different problem of oreg, of weaving, because it's considered a garment. It's like a garment that you're not allowed to weave, so you're not allowed to weave here as well. Now,
Unbraiding you can't do either. But it's not weaving.
unbraiding is potzea. It's a different isur, a different melachas. What if you want to comb a wig? So you're not braiding a wig, but you want to comb it. So the rabbis bring down, combing a wig is not gozez, even if the hair comes out. There are some that say that you want the hair to come out. Most say it's not like that. So if you're going to go and comb your hair with a comb that is not attached to you, it's a wig, that wouldn't be a problem, and you let it comb it on Shabbat. Now, the Chacham Ben Zion writes, he says, but this is only if you're at least able to wear it outside. But if it's unusable, because it looks terrible and you would never wear it outside, by brushing it and combing it, you're actually making it into a keli that's able to be worn. It's metakin keli, and you're not allowed to do that. Right? So if you find that wig under your bed and it's all messed up and you want to do it on Shabbat, that's mi'asud. But regular combing wig, even if hair is going to fall out, it's not a problem because it's not attached to you. It's only be a problem if it's attached to you like your regular hair. So now what happens if your daughter gets gum in her hair? So she has gum in it now. So what do you do?
Put ice on it.
Put oil on it.
Very good. So you put ice on it, and hopefully it gets hard enough and not sticky enough, and then you could take it out. What happens if that doesn't work? Right? See, she has this whole glob of gum in her hair.
Time out.
So the best thing to do is to get a hat, because there's nothing you could do about it. You can't take out the gum because you're going to rip out the hair. It's considered gozez on Shabbat, so you have to put on a hat and wear that for the rest of Shabbat. There's no other way.
Yeah, but then like the rest of the hair can get like, sticky from.
Right, so they bring down, you're supposed to put peanut butter around it so it doesn't stick the rest. But peanut butter can be a different issue of mimareach, of smearing. So if you're going to smear it all around the gum, you get a different problem, even though it's food.
How about using oil just to try and separate the gum from the hair?
That would be okay. You could do that. Some people want to say oil, some people try to do ice, but if nothing works out, it's going to rip. That's how you do it. You just put on a hat and you're good to go. Now you have a band-aid on Shabbat and you want to remove it. How do you do that? Then care should be taken and it should be done lightly, and you should place oil under it so it's easy to take it off. Now, if that can't be done and it won't come off and you're for sure going to rip out here, then you can take it off, and you need to take it off. This is all talking about when you need to. If you don't need to and you can leave it on, there's no problem, right? But what if it's on your, on your face of a hair and it just looks weird and you feel weird and you have to go outside? They bring it down, you can take it off, no problem, because for a few reasons. First of all, it's klachayad. It's not ripping hair in the normal way. Nobody rips hair by taking a band-aid. Second of all, it's loy nichale. You don't want that to happen, and it's happening anyway. And third of all, it's mekalkal. You're ruining it. You're not making it better. It's right. It's not like a wax that you're trying to make better. It's ruining it by taking off the hair. So Rosh Hashanah Auerbach brings down the Shmirat Shabbat Kehilchata that it would be okay to do that. You're not allowed to go to the mikveh when the hair is tangled because it's a chatzitza. The water is not going to get in between the different hairs, and it's going to be a real big issue. So if there is no goy to ask to comb the hair to make it not an issue, right? What if you don't have a goy? No one could go and comb the hair so that the woman could go to the mikveh. Rabbi Ovadia brings down that. No, I'm sorry. If it's so entangled that you cannot comb and that you cannot comb the hair, the Bavaida says you should have a goy do it. A non-Jew can do it, and then make it make you have the ability to go to the mikveh with it not being tangled. But besides for that, there's going to be issues. You can't. There's no other way to do it because it's a chatzitza. Now the last thing.
Wait, so what do?
You have a non-Jew.
Yeah, but most of the time, like in Israel, you don't have non-Jew here and there. It's not like here, like.
So yeah, then you
So
can't.
you just don't go to the mikveh.
You can't go to
have
the mikveh. You postpone it till the next night. The real issue is going to be on Yom Tov. You have 1 day, 2 days, and then that could be a real big issue. So you have to make sure that you comb your hair and brush your hair very well before, so you don't get into that issue a day later. If you have to go to the mikveh the next night. Which brings us involved with the whole tziviyah thing regarding makeup also. If it's a 3-day holiday, that could be an issue. Now, we're just going to end off with an interesting story that happened with the Chazon Ish. And the halakha comes out of this. The Chazon Ish was once greeted by a man. And the Chazon Ish said, "You are a mechalel Shabbat. You desecrate Shabbat." So the person says, "What does that mean?" He was a rabbi. He says, "You desecrate Shabbat." He says, "How can you say that?" He said, "I see you're biting the skin off of your lip. You have a certain habit to bite the skin off of your lip. And if you do it on Tuesday, you're also going to do it on Shabbat. So right now you're considered mechalel Shabbat." Which brings us to the last halakha. The same thing would apply. Gozez applies as well to nails and to the lip. When you have those little pieces on the lip, or even if a person has dandruff or things that he's scratching off of his head, it all goes into the same category that it cannot be done. So it would be very good to refrain from doing it in the week so you don't have that problem on Shabbat. Cuticles is the same thing. It's actually a dispute in the Gemara, in the Shulchan Aruch, if the cuticle is going up or down. One of them you're allowed to do, one of them you're not allowed to do. The Shulchan Aruch says, since we don't know which one, we don't do both.
Oh.
So it's like hanging and...
No, regarding that, hanging doesn't work. Regarding the nail, if most of the nail is off, you're actually allowed to take it off. But that's by the nail.
But it's like the hanging nail on the side, like the cuticle on the side is like hanging off, or you're bleeding from...
By cuticles is the skin that's coming out.
Yeah, like the skin
Yeah,
on
so
the
that, no,
side.
that would never be
Put a
allowed.
Band-Aid.
Okay, Hazaku Baruch. Thank you everyone for coming.